Lonzo Ball is probably the most scrutinized and questioned player in this league, when you really think about it. One day you'll have analysts saying that you're a bust, and then the very next day, they come out and say that you're a special talent. And while Lonzo isn't blameless here either, the main problem that I now have is that the media, they're now starting to criticize Lonzo more and more, while not recognizing what he's doing good in a game, when ironically being compared to other players in this league. So let's break it down as to how the media, not Lonzo, are devaluing his impact. Lonzo didn't start the season well. I think that's pretty easy to understand as an NBA fan. After having both December and January, where Lonzo only averaged 12 points a night on inefficient shooting from the field and from 3, these criticisms are valid. Kendrick Perkins, let's play the clip.
And then secondly, George, when is Lonzo Ball going to show us that he was the number 2 pick? Like, it's time for him to show us either you're a superstar or all-star caliber player or you're a role player.
But now you see, this is where the manipulation is what I'd want to call it starts. Because Lonzo has had an amazing February. In this month at the time of this recording, Lonzo is averaging 16.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game, on much improved field goal shooting and a very impressive 46% from the 3-point line. But probably the area of most improvement that Lonzo has shown would be the aggression to get to the free throw line, because this was, after all, something that Lonzo has never done well in his career. At most, he might get a free throw here and there in a game. He was just never the guy to welcome in contact to get to the line. And while 1.9 attempts is still something that you'd wish to become more, this should be a talking point minimum from any of the big media outlets. Because if Lamelo is playing well and doing these types of things on the offensive end, and his older brother is able to match it, it should only create more discussion and talking points, if you think about it. Instead, this is what the media is talking about the Pelicans. Colin Cowherd, let's play the tape.
He is just bigger, more dynamic, faster, stronger. He looks different. This is why I struggled with Kyler Murray. I'm like, that looks too small to me. I don't understand that. The culture of basketball now is offensively gifted players, go get them. Kyrie can't defend, and James Harden can't defend, and Durant doesn't defend like he used to, and that's the best team in the East. Because the sport has decided offense is about 80% of it. Offense gets fans in. It's an offensive league.
Now with this clip, I will be the first to say that I'm not critical about Colin discussing Zion, because he has played very, very well. And like Lonzo, he hasn't really been talked about this season for the good play that he has been doing. But what I do have an issue with is how he covered him. Why the hell are we comparing Zion Williamson to Kyler Murray? If we compare Zion to another basketball player to make a point about him, fair play. But this is 2 totally different sports, 2 totally different ways of playing the game. So this already sort of wasted Colin's segment for Zion Williamson. But then the other part, this one was the one that really irritated me. Because this has been the media's way of trying to infiltrate the game of basketball. Now everybody is interested in seeing players score the ball, all about getting the highlights and the flashy plays. But the only time people in the media actually start to talk about defense, as if they were stressing about it the whole time, comes in the playoffs. And this is the beginning of the other argument to Lonzo's game. Throughout the season, the one thing that Lonzo has shown to be extremely consistent at has been his defense. At this moment, he's leading the Pelicans with steals per game, at around 1.5 a night. And then in the league as a whole, Lonzo Ball leads the NBA in toughest matchups placed, with a matchup difficulty of 99.9. So you'd figure that when a player is doing this well on the defensive end, they'd be able to get some type of shine in the media because of how impressive that is, each night having to guard some of the toughest matchups in the NBA, and playing at a very high level to it. But instead, the media, as Colin Cowherd mentioned, rarely talks about defense, and when they do talk about defense, it only comes when a team has been historically bad. You remember the Nets? So by now, we are starting to see that Lonzo isn't getting acknowledged by the media anymore when he does well, as shown through this past month. And his main strengths won't be talked about, aka his defense. But besides this, the biggest problem that I have is that the Pelicans, they basically admitted that they gave up on Lonzo before the season even started. I know that as I hinted before that Lonzo played horrible in the bubble, but before the bubble began, Lonzo was playing the best stretch of his young career so far. He was extremely aggressive, he shot the ball well, and got his teammates involved, with averages of 20.8 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 7.8 assists in March before the lockdown occurred. And how did the Pelicans repay their faith? Well, they decided not only to draft another player in the same position in Kira Lewis Jr., but they also decided to go for a veteran point guard in Eric Bledsoe, who can't spread the floor. And don't even forget that the Pelicans still have Alexander Walker on this team as well. At this point, can we now start to see that some of Lonzo's downfall hasn't been entirely on him? I know he can make some people extremely frustrated at times, but when the media just constantly wants to talk about you, when you're doing bad, your team not trusting in you, and your team trying to replace you, let me ask you this question. Are you really going to play consistently well in this type of environment? In my opinion, Lonzo isn't having a bad season at all, but I believe a change of scenery is required. He needs to go to somewhere where they respect his game and acknowledge his strengths. Let me know what you guys think. Until next time, peace.